What's up, alumni? Welcome to After 4, your podcast for navigating life after graduation. This is a special episode here. I'm still John, but I've got a good friend and colleague with me who's joining for our conversation today and who's starting off the episode with us. So even that's just a little bit different. Selah, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes, I'm so excited to Selah, let's see here. We're gonna spend some time getting to know each other, helping our audience get to know you. But just like so, we're all on the same page here. We're doing a different episode format, as we've already said. We're gonna be doing a kind of behind the scenes, little debriefing, breakdown kind of stuff. Let me ask it this way, Selah. Have you ever watched Deadliest Catch?
No.
Okay, I thought that might be your answer. Have you ever watched Stranger Things on Netflix?
I tried like one episode. I got too scared.
Okay, all right. Well, both of those shows have something that happens after the show. Deadliest Catch has Deadliest Catch has After the Catch. Stranger Things has Beyond Stranger Things, and it's where they sit down with like the cast and crew and they sort of like talk through like, so what was going through your mind as you were about to fall overboard or as you were, those kinds of things. So we're going to do something kind of like that today. I thought about, it doesn't have a name yet. I thought about calling it like the afterwards, or something, something like that. I don't know. We'll play around with it. So not just recapping episodes, but also talking about like some takeaways, stories, experiences. In particular, I got to host these episodes, but you've listened to them. So kind of talking through together what that experience has been like. So I don't know. Maybe it'll be really interesting. Maybe it'll be terrible, but we'll get to experience it together. We'll take it. We'll take what comes and we'll see what happens. But Selah, before we jump into any of those things, would you like introduce yourself, help us get to know you a little bit, and then I have a question for you to consider before we dive into. So, but first, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, just a little bit.
Yes,
my name is Selah. Hi, I am 22, graduated last May from the University of Illinois, Chicago, studying political science and business management. And then I worked corporate for a little bit and decided that was not for me, which is a huge part of my testimony. And that brought me to work for InterVarsity alumni team. So God has worked in a lot of different ways in that.
Yes. Nice. Yeah, it has been a lot of fun. You've been on our team for, how long have you been on our team now? We've worked together for a little while here.
Officially, July is April, May, June, July, month number 4.
Okay. All right.
But throughout the support raising process, we're reaching a year.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Almost a year that you've been on the team. And here you are joining on the podcast. One by one, people from the team jump on the podcast and do an episode or two with me. So I'm glad that here it is, your turn for something like this. And like you said, a year out of graduation. So you are like firmly in the Gen Z experiencing life after graduation. Like you are like our prime listener, really. Yeah, exactly. So given that we're going to have Gen Z and a millennial hanging out together on the episode today, I have a question for you, Selah, and that is, can you tell me one thing, let's see here, tell me one thing that every Gen Z person knows, or that is common knowledge to someone who's Gen Z like yourself, that a millennial like me more than likely has no idea about.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. I don't know.
Oh,
maybe, boy. Probably like common slang.
Okay.
Or like, I would probably say slang. It's
slang.
The easiest thing that there's probably barrier to entry for both. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite piece of Gen Z terminology or slang that you use most regularly?
Oh yeah. and I've tried to stop. I think, like, well, you guys know it, but I think it's weird when you guys use it. It's like,
Okay.
it's like slay or like purr, things like that.
Yeah.
I've had to like stop myself from saying that in front of my pastor or even at work. I'm like, slay queen, but I'm like, I can't say that to my director. I can't say that. But yeah,
you might be able to. He'd probably think it's funny. I don't know.
like,
No,
what?
yeah.
What?
Yeah, I can see why that would make you like uncomfortable or uneasy if somebody like me started talking about slay. Like, yeah, if I use the word slay. Like, yeah, exactly. Well, that's good. I will continue to stay away from that terminology.
No,
I had
please do
one.
it.
I had one for you from a millennial perspective. And maybe see, this is where you like spend so much time like breathing your own air. You don't know, you don't necessarily know for sure what other people don't know. So I might be totally off base about this, but this is my question is there a sound for Gen Z that equals internet? When I say that, does that mean anything to you? A sound that means internet?
No.
Okay. So for me, a millennial, and I think if there's probably no millennials tuning into this, but here I can give you an example of a sound that means internet to a millennial like me. I'll play it for you right here. We'll probably have to cut it in post in a different way, but I'll play it for you. Tell me if you can hear it. Do you know that sound? Have you ever heard that before?
No. That sounds like a horror movie.
Doesn't it? Isn't it a terrible, like, it is such a harsh sound, but to us, those of us who grew up like in the early 90s in particular, that was the sound of internet. You would turn on your computer and that's the sound that would play, that would let you know you were connecting to the internet. So there you go.
Yeah, Wi-Fi doesn't have a sound.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It's just there somewhere in the cloud
air,
or whatever.
Yes. Yeah, air in the cloud. Exactly. Well, there you go. A little insight into what it was like being a millennial growing up, getting internet in your house and turning it on. And then you can't use your phone. That's a dial-up internet in particular that would use your phone line. So then your parents would get mad at you because they couldn't call their like brother or something.
Dial-up?
Dial-up internet. Like, are you playing this up, or do you actually are you not familiar with that term?
Like a dial phone?
Yeah, like it would use your phone line. It would dial up, like it would call the internet.
Call the
internet? That's essentially what it was like.
Like AT&T or like Verizon. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Exactly. And then you couldn't. There you go. And then you couldn't use your phone because your phone line was busy with the internet. So there you go. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So there you go. We're learning things together, Selah. You don't have to worry about that.
Nope.
Okay. So Selah, here we go. So, now that we've covered that ground together. So a few weeks ago, at the time that people are listening to this, a few weeks ago, we wrapped up our series that was about faith transition and the experience of continuing to follow Jesus after graduation, but recognizing that experience can be very different as you make the transition to this next season of life. And we named some of the challenges that people commonly experience. We talked through some tools and things that were helpful, and we heard some stories from alumni. We got to hear from some really wise and experienced people. Excuse me. But I thought something that might be helpful before we continue jumping into like debriefing some of those experiences or hearing like what stood out to you from those episodes, what stood out to both of us from those times is like what, especially being 1 year post-graduation right now, like some of this is your lived experience. So I'd be interested to hear from you, like what has some of your lived experience with faith transition been like in this first year of life after graduation?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's been a roller coaster. I think that's a perfect word to use. It's been a roller coaster, but one, I think I have to say that God has been extremely faithful in that roller coaster. I have been the roller coaster, if that's better to say.
Sure,
I am the roller coaster. He's just the builders. But yeah, it's been, I think, in every challenge and every chapter of this transition since, I think I would even say coming into college, it's been such a roller coaster. And it's been wild, and God has sustained me. But there have been a lot of struggles, a lot of disappointments and letdowns. But overall, I think God has been faithful through all of them. But definitely, it hasn't been like a perfect cookie cutter, like one. It's been mountains, and it hasn't just been like flat plains. There have been so many ups and downs. So
yeah, that's as I think about like my transition to life after graduation was just stepping right into a new program. Like I went from undergrad to grad school. So there was a little bit of familiarity there just because it was like school rhythm, school calendar, some of that kind of stuff. But it was 10 hours away from everything I had known before, like big transition from Indiana to Minnesota. And I can just remember one of the questions that I asked most regularly of God in that season of life was, why did you bring me here? Just having this question again and again and again of like, what are you doing? Especially as I saw the things that I thought I had made this next step for start to kind of like erode and not really pan out the way that I thought they would. Yeah. And so you talk about disappointment, you talk about a roller coaster, like that was very much my lived experience as well, was just the space of feeling like, I feel like I'm sort of tumbling through the air here with no real sense of like which way is up and how I'm supposed to move forward from where I'm at now.
Definitely. And I think that, that's so relatable for so many people. We just don't talk about it a lot unless we're talking about our testimonies, but or like our stories of just how God has brought us to where we are today. But that's definitely like feeling like, God, like what is going on? Like, where am I? Honestly, sometimes like where am I? What am I doing here? And I think the past episode, one of the episodes that you did with Rocco, if I'm saying that right, was about just like
Rocco? Oh, with Rocco. Yeah.
Rocco was about just like everything seems like it's falling, or like I don't know, where am I standing on the ground? Am I in the air? Like, I think that's so relatable. Yeah. And for me too, especially coming into college, I had a huge faith earthquake, or like that transition was really, really hard. And then graduating, that transition was really hard in the sense that it was really lonely. And so there were so many different emotions throughout the transitions, throughout like my life's faith transition, my graduating transition. That's felt really hard and rocky sometimes.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. When I was chatting with Jason in one episode, he talked about how, when you come into college and there's like new student orientation, you have sort of these different gatherings, whether it's an official, like there's some places that you have to take it like almost as a freshman class, as a first year student class, like as a credit. And then there's some of them that it's like, oh yeah, you show up to this thing, we sort of orient you to campus and what you can expect moving forward. And at least you have some sort of somebody to sit down with you and help prepare you. And when you move off into life after graduation, like there is no orientation for that time. And that can, as a result, be very disorienting instead, that you're just sort of like you've spent all this time learning a lot of stuff, but then you go to this new season of life and you're like, what do I do next? And where is God in the midst of all of these things? And, I used to have like spaces in my day to pause and to pray and to reflect and to journal. And now I got to work all day. And when I go home, I don't want to do anything. Like I want to eat dinner. I want to crash on the couch for a while and I want to go to bed. Like, where am I supposed to even engage with the Lord in meaningful ways? And it can be extremely disorienting because it feels so different.
Yeah.
Are you there, Selah?
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of, sorry, the wife, I don't know. I feel like that was like, he worded that so well that there is no transition class for after college. You're kind of just like thrown into the deep end and navigating, unless you have, I think, a really solid support system in a church or a small group. It can be really, really hard. And I think I was fortunate to have like that church foundation. And I think it's really important for young adults to have a church that they're instilled in, so that transition that isn't also like so consuming. Because I know I've had friendships and relationships where their college transition didn't result in the same way as mine, and none of them do. But it's unfortunate to see that some people's transition doesn't lead them closer to Christ, because that foundation of a church, they really do help. And having a community like that really does ease the fall when you are thrown into the deep end. But I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do when I graduated. It was a lot. And especially like going into corporate, I think that was a really interesting period of my life that I oftentimes ask God about, is like, working corporate is very different than working in ministry or even being in college. You're surrounded, like in college, you're surrounded by people who, like, you can go next door and your friend is a believer, or you can, like the way that you conduct yourself, you just have more, more people around you who are like-minded. But when you go into a workspace or a field that isn't the way that you, isn't your faith, or doesn't have your faith backing it up, it can be really, really hard. And it can be a place where you can like really wrestle with God, and wrestling with God isn't bad as long as you do it with him. But it can cause some people to really fall away from him, and the struggle of it, and being surrounded by people who aren't thinking like you and who do not conduct themselves like you. It can be really tricky. So I'm so grateful that you went right from one thing to another, but there are probably hardships in that too. There are probably hardships in that. So
yeah. Well, it's interesting hearing you talk about some of that, because again, you already mentioned Rocco, that sounds like a lot of what did sort of draw him away from following Jesus for that season of his life. And the story that he was sharing with us is that he got so inundated with work. Like he was talking about like not just working a 40-hour week, but just like an insane amount of work, because there was projects that just kept piling up and were very difficult to manage. That some of the smartest people that he was working with at that time are people who were not following Jesus, and that he was used to hanging out with his fellow. I think that Rocco talked about being an engineer of some type, and his school being like an engineering school. And so like he was rubbing shoulders. His chapter mates were like, they were super smart and Jesus followers. And so they knew how to sort of reconcile those gaps and things that oftentimes didn't make sense. Like they could walk through those together. And then he gets to a place where it's like, here are super smart people who don't follow Jesus. And so I'm engaging with them around these ideas that are like, and they don't take me in the direction that like my chapter mates did, and not being able to find a church community and just feeling overwhelmed and like the work that he did didn't matter or didn't have long-term impact or was just a band-aid on the problem when he would fix something. And those are the things that really led him down like this path of hopelessness and like almost nothing matters, and the only thing that makes sense is me just trying to get paid for the work that I do, and that it really sent him in this downward spiral. And so it sounds like there's at least some similarities there in some of the experiences that you had in that space as well.
Definitely. And I think having that community, having my church be such a foundation, and having that period, I'm grateful that I got that period of like really struggling, because that's like where I got to really go before the throne of Christ and just like let my, like, I was just like in grieving, and I was like, Lord, like this is so different. Like just the way, like, I think, like the way that they were speaking and acting, it can really affect you. And so,
yeah,
just like being able to go before God and being like, Lord, I know you have something for me, and I know you have put me here for a reason. I don't know what that is. All I can see is this, like, all I can see right now is the fact that I'm struggling. And all I can see right now is that I miss my friends. And all I can see right now is I'm single. All I can see right now is like everything is like lonely. And so,
yes.
like all I can see is my one friend is here in this state and the other one's over here, and someone's moved to a different country. Like all these things, like that's all you can see. But having a support system like a church is really helpful. But also, being able to grow that intimacy with God through your struggle and through the hardship I think is really beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. You're some of those things you're talking about of only being able to see this, and this, like all of these challenging things. It reminds me of one of the conversations Jason and I had around hope and around what it looks like when we, just because you're in a difficult time doesn't mean that you're on the wrong path. And that, that Psalm 23 talks about how, the Lord leads us on paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And then the very next thing that we hear is that even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, that sometimes right paths lead through really dark valleys, and that it can be super easy to, when you are experiencing those kinds of things of like, why am I single? Where are my friends? Everybody's getting a start on their life that makes sense and mine isn't, like to feel like you are in this really dark valley. And to maybe to ask the question like, well, what's wrong with me? Like, why is it happening? Like, what am I doing that, I'm not experiencing the Lord's blessing in this or this way? And that, rather than taking that on ourselves of like, what am I doing wrong? Or only focusing in on these difficult things, is stopping and remembering like, okay, but where is it that I've seen God's faithfulness in the past? And is it possible that it's still happening? It's just harder to see because of these other challenges that are right in front of my face.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's so great. And I think one of the things about like going through struggles is it really lets you, and it let me really build like some good spiritual rhythms. One of them being remembering. I could not tell you how many times I read Exodus and Deuteronomy throughout that time. Like, because I was like, I need to be in the same place that, like, I am in the same place that these Israelites are in. And so and one of the greatest things that, one of the reasons why they kept on circling the desert was because they forgot to remember. And just over and over again, it's just the Old Testament just kept on saying, like, they forgot. And Exodus is just, they forgot. And so now we can take from, I took from that, and we can take from that like as soon as we start forgetting God's faithfulness, as soon as we start forgetting his commands for us and his loving word for us, we're going to start like spiraling, and we're going to start just having just some hardships. And so just remembering like that helped me build the just the rhythm of like, okay. And my mom, who was right next to me throughout the whole thing, even though she was far away, she was like, you need to remember. And so just keep like having the practice of like, okay, I'm starting to get like, I know this pattern about myself. I am starting to ask God, like, why me? Like, what is this? What's happening? Why am I in this position? Have you forgotten me? All these things, remembering, okay, last year I was in this place. 11 months ago I was here. 10 months ago I was here. 9 months ago I was here. And now I'm here. Like, I am living some of the prayers that I have asked for. And I know I'm in a like really tough place, but look where God has brought me from. Look what promises, like biblical promises he has made to me as his daughter, as his child. These are the things that he has said. And I am able to go in front of him and say, God, this is what you said. And I'm holding you accountable. And in faith and in trust, I am coming before you, saying like, hey, this is what you said. And I'm trusting that you're going to hold your word because you don't break your promises. I think that was so important for me. So I think, trials and tribulations and all these hard things can help us come up with some of the most intentional ways that we can grow our intimacy with God too. So yeah, it's hard.
Yes, it is. But I love that, like that idea of having an intimate relationship with God. That comes with time. That comes with going through difficulty. It comes with going through celebratory time, like wins and losses. Both of those draw people together. And to me, one of the indicators that you do have a growing intimate relationship with God is that you're able to like come before Him and say, like, Lord, these are the promises that you've made. Whether they're things that I've heard directly or things that I've learned from Scripture about who you are. And so like I hopefully in a respectful way, but I expect you to like follow through. Like if this is who you are, and if like your integrity as God depends on you like fulfilling your promises, then I can rely on that. But I'm not seeing it yet. So when am I going to see that? Like, do you think when are you going to follow through on these promises? And to have that like that forward look of like, God, when is this going to happen? But you also talked about like this backward of like, here are the places that I've seen it. While I'm waiting here today and looking ahead to tomorrow, I'm also thinking about last month or last year or however long ago. And these are the places that I saw God be faithful. And I'm going to trust that He's going to do it again. And Selah, I wonder, as you have those experiences of remembering, is there like an actual rhythm that you have or a process that you have for doing that? Does it look a particular way? Do you have a series of like either questions or prayers or something that you kind of work through as you lean into the act of remembering? Or is it more just like a posture for you of like, this is just something that I keep coming back to in the way that I think?
Yeah, I think it's a 100% both.
Okay.
I think it's a posture that your heart knows, like your heart knows the faithfulness of God. That we know that like our God is loving and we are His children, right? That's like a core thing that we can just stand on. That's like the bottom line, it's like it's like the thing that we can just automatically know no matter what. And then it can be like pattern. For me, it's patterns of thought. Like my brain, I am a glass mostly almost 100% empty, even if it's like, even if it's 75% full, I'm like, oh my goodness, God, like my glass, everything is just life and death. I don't know why. I just know that I'm anxious. Like I get like stressed out, and that's my brain. I have to catch myself doing these things. And so for me, it just looked like, okay, I need to recognize the thoughts that happen. I need to recognize how I think, and I need to be able to catch myself when it happens.
Yeah.
I need to have my thoughts submit to God immediately. And so I just I have a notes, everybody has a notes app.
Oh yeah.
I hope, I
Yeah,
have
if
a
you don't
notes
get
app.
one.
Yeah, get one. I have a notes app, and as soon as I start to I'm like, oh, another one of my friends starts dating. Oh, that means I'm behind. Oh, another one of my friends just got a promotion. Oh, all of these things. Oh, this person is in a different country. They're living, as soon as I catch myself thinking those things,
Yeah.
I have to pull out I pull out my phone, my notes app, and I start looking through everything that I have been grateful for in the past.
Wow.
And then that lets me oh man, God has been good to me. I am his number
Yeah.
one,
Yes.
I have to hype myself up so much. And God, I know God doesn't have favorites, but to me, I'm like, man, I am God's favorite. As soon as I look at my app, as soon as I look at the list of things that I've been grateful for. And then when I am in that position, I also have to be I have to give him glory too. And so it's not just looking back, but also being like, oh, okay, right now I'm feeling this way. What can I be grateful for? How can I give glory to him? How can I worship him right now?
Yeah.
Even if it's there was one day where I just took a screenshot of the weather because I was like, this is great weather. I don't know what weather it is. I think it's I can literally pull it up. It was 73 degrees or something. And I just took a screenshot and I was like, this is the thing that I need to be grateful for today. And so I put it on my list. So things like that, it's 100% the posture of our hearts, knowing just we are his children. God has redeemed us and he has saved us, and Jesus has died on the cross for us. It's just that's the foundation, but also making it a practice of okay, I know what gets me feeling these sort of ways that make me start doubting God, which makes me start doing this, which leads to this. And unfortunately, sometimes those things lead to sin. Those things lead to falling away. And so recognizing how and God isn't mad at us when we fall into those into the thought process, but what delights him is when we can catch ourselves and when we say, this is not the truth of God. This is not the Father's voice. This is not the Father voice. And so I can turn around and I can make those thoughts captive and submit to God. So
yeah, that's really great. It sounds like that getting good at remembering is both posture and practice, that both of those things work together and that they help inform each other. They prop each other up. The more that you practice, the more that you have this posture of your heart, and the more that your heart is postured in this direction, the more likely you are to return to the practice. And that's what I love, that idea of just having a list in your notes app of these are the things that I can remember that God has been faithful. He has come through for me in all of these ways. And when I'm starting to feel shaky on okay, but what have you done for me lately, Lord? It's well, he's done all of this. He's done all of this. And that's, for anybody who's listening or watching, I highly recommend some sort of practice like that. With, I think with Nader and with Jason, both, we talked about the idea of doing an examine being a regular part of our life rhythms. And they don't have to look, an examine doesn't have to look the way that they talked about. I would advocate that what you're doing there, Selah, with this list, that is the practice of examine, just in a different format that fits this is what fits from my life and what I have at hand. And like that is a type of examine right there, of pausing and saying, okay, what is true? These are the things that I'm thinking, but what's true? And so let me kick out the things that I'm thinking that aren't true, and let me hold on to the ones that are, and then I can keep adding to this list as I go along. And so I would recommend to anybody that's listening either taking that exact practice, or they can listen to episodes with, I think it was our very first episode with Nader. We talked about an examine in the realm of discernment in particular, but then Jason, we talked about using an examine for the practice of like, where am I and where is God? Like, where are we in this season of life, and continuing to align ourselves with God and to be in step when things maybe don't feel like they're going the way that we hoped that they would. So I'm really glad that that's a practice that stands out to you, Selah, is something that you're already doing that has been really helpful. Yeah, Selah, as you think about any of the other episodes that we got to experience in this series, were there other moments that either felt particularly encouraging or heartwarming, of like, oh man, this person said something that I just really needed to hear in this season of faith transition, or that was like, here's a useful tool that I'd like to figure out how to start incorporating, or something like, is there anything else like that stood out to you?
Yeah. And I know we've been bringing up Jason a lot.
Sure.
But, really genuinely, he was talking about perseverance, and nobody wants to persevere. Like, that's just like it. Like, who says today I'm going to persevere through something, you know? Right. Yeah. Nobody wants to go through hard things, but we do. And I love that he brought up the fact that perseverance, it's only after perseverance can fruit be produced. And I think that's like, that's so true. And that's so like, it's hard. First, it was really hard to hear that. I was like, I can only grow in the characteristics of the Holy Spirit once, like when I am put through things that allow me to exercise those muscles, just like how dude bros go to the gym and they like lift like heavy things. Like that's hard. Yeah. That's hard, but we can only produce those muscles if we are going through those things. And so perseverance is, for me, it's not a delightful word. I don't want to persevere, but when I think of persevering through something so that I can grow in my love for people. If I have to persevere through this like event that I have to be with people, then I know that I'm going to grow in my love for people. If I have to persevere through this really hard like event where I have to, or like place in my life where I have to give God like a lot of my trust, then I know I'm going to grow in trust, and I know I'm going to grow in joy, and I'm going to be able to have joy in circumstances despite the circumstances. And so I think that was just such a beautiful and really encouraging thing to hear, and give a more positive connotation to a word that I've seen as negative all along. That like perseverance can be something that brings me closer to God, and that allows me to have more of the characteristics of the Holy Spirit. And so I really, really, I think I really needed to hear it. Being a young adult who is going through hard things and will continue go through hard things unless Jesus, decides to come early. But,
sure, whatever he wants to do.
If you want to come on,
feel free, Lord.
but I think that was just so encouraging.
Yeah, it's funny that you bring up perseverance, because that's also something that stands out to me from this series. And I think that's something that comes up in a number of ways, and Jason named it just very overtly. But it's interesting to me because how much of like the media that we consume, or the stories that we really love, that we find inspiring, are inspiring because somebody persevered through like the most insane situations, whether it's like a real life story, true events, or if it's a fantasy
Spider-Man,
world.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The fact that somebody is able to like bear this weight for a time and then to see success at the other end. And it's not just the success is this really great payoff, but it's only a great payoff because of everything that they went through leading up to it. And because they didn't give up. And that, like, I think that we just constantly have the voice whispering in our ear to just give up. Like, it's just easier if you give up, and you don't have to do this, and just abandon it. It'll all be over with. And it's just like, no, that's not, that might feel like a quick release of like, okay, I'm just done. I give up. I don't believe anymore. Or I don't believe that's what I need to do anymore, or whatever it might be. And to say like, nope, this is the direction that the Lord has called me. This is what I've been trained in, as far as like what it looks like to be faithful and to follow Jesus faithfully, that he promises there's going to be hard things. Like we heard from Jay Kim in our last episode, that he talks about like, you mentioned joy, that joy is like stable. Joy is something that we have continuously, that it fights through the ups and the downs of happiness and disappointment, and joy continues. And I just suddenly forgot what it was that brought me to joy there. I don't remember where I'm going, but either way, that we persevere, that we just keep going. That we keep going through the difficulty, and that's what leads to this really amazing celebration. Like to hear "well done, good and faithful servant," is all the more meaningful because the journey was a difficult one, but it is a worthwhile one.
Yeah, and I can't I think every season of my life. Every season of my life where I've gone through something hard, my mom, again, she has instilled in me Isaiah 43, which is which says, "See, I am doing a new thing."
Oh, nice.
A new thing is springing up. Do you not perceive it? And so, asking myself, do I not the reality is we have horsebinds on. Do you not see it? And God isn't. Yeah. God doesn't say that to us. Do you not perceive this? He's not mad, but he's my child, I am doing a new thing. It's springing up. Do you not perceive it? Do you not see what I'm doing? And I think us understanding God is gentle with us when we go through hardships. Seeing it that way will allow us to trust him so much more, and the more we trust him, the harder, the less hard it will be for us. But that's just something that I've had to ask myself so many times. I'm do you not perceive it? I don't, but I need to trust God, because I know who he is. Everything has its season. Everything has its season, and God, God is God, and he has us. And so Isaiah 43 is just always just there. Do you not perceive it?
Oh, I really love that. And I especially appreciate in the midst of that, the encouragement to check the way that you hear God's voice, because I am definitely somebody that has grown up hearing this sort of gruff, reprimanding voice from God. And I can, when I stop to really think about it as I'm reading scripture or whatever, or when I'm thinking about maybe as I'm meditating or doing an examen or something, and thinking about what am I hearing from God, and not just what, but how. And how often it comes across as this gruff sort of voice. And I'm how does it change my experience and my interpretation of the situation if I hear this as a gentle voice instead? What would that look like if, instead of it feeling almost a slap in the face, that it was more God putting his arm around me and pulling me in close and saying look, if you just be quiet for a second and listen and watch. Can you see that I'm starting to do something different? And just keep watching and keep waiting, and you will start to see that things feel uncomfortable and different because I'm doing something new, and you will adjust and it will be better. I promise. Or at the very least, it will be good. It will be good because it's something that I'm giving to you. We might not perceive it as better to start with, but it will be good because it's where God is leading us. So I appreciate that perspective and the invitation to check, like, how are you hearing the voice of God? Because maybe that's affecting the way that you're interpreting the really good direction that he's giving you.
Yeah. And I think, like, going back to what you said earlier, about like, he leads us down still waters, green pastures, and by still waters. It's like the thing about, like, we know that, like, sheep, like, we've heard that sheep are dumb and they need a shepherd, but genuinely, we are his sheep, and the sheep recognizes that they recognize the shepherd's voice, and they know like who to trust and not to trust. But the only way that we can do that is when we really, like, take the time to grow our intimacy with Christ, and when we get to understand God and through his word. And another chapter, Isaiah, it says that whether you turn to the right or to the left, you will, underlining will, you will hear my voice saying,
yes,
this way, walk in it. And so just knowing that we are going to go through really hard things. That is a definite. We will go through hard things. Jesus says that he, like, you will face trials and tribulations in my name in this world. But when you know my voice, and when you know who I am, and when you take the time to walk with me, like, understand who I am, know who I am as your father, as Christ, then, like, I will lead you in the right way. I will show you where to go. So I think that's so comforting. I'm, like, getting, like, good goosebumps.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. I will do this. I've made the promise and I will do it. That's so great. Selah, do you I mean, here, after all these things that we've talked about, do you have, like, a final word of encouragement that you would give? Maybe you've already offered whatever that might be, but is there, like, as you think about your fellow alumni who are right here in this same stage of life, right around this 1 year of life after graduation, is there a final word of encouragement that you would want to say to maybe it's people from your chapter who graduated with you, or who now, the people who you graduated and they're still there, and so now they're graduating and just getting started on the journey that you started a year ago, whoever it might be, do you have a word of encouragement that you would offer?
Yeah. I think I would just encourage them to grow their intimacy with Christ. And I think I would just, encourage them to go before the throne of God more and more and more, like, from the biggest things to the smallest things. Habits make who we are. And I think when we make habits that are of Christ and wanting to go before Christ, I think that's gonna make or break us, and that's going to shape us. And, like, what we do genuinely does, like, shape who we are. And so if we're intentionally hungry to grow our intimacy with Christ, everything else is going to follow. Jesus only, like, he fasted for 40 days, and he was tempted after those 40 days. But the reason that he made it out because he had the word of God ingrained on his heart, and he knew his father. He had grown intimate relationship with God. And so he was able to go through that because he had the word. And so I think an encouragement for myself even is, like, grow my intimacy with God, grow your intimacy with God, so that when the darts of the enemy come your way, when circumstances lead you to doubt God or lead you to want to like freak out, then we know like, hey, I can cast my fears and anxieties to the Lord, and I can make my thoughts submit to God. And he will guide me, and he will tell me which way to go.
Yeah. I love that. I think it takes me back to Jason and perseverance, and talking about the good soil. This good soil being those with a noble and good heart who hear the word, retain it, and by persevering produce a harvest. And it's in that perseverance that we develop an intimate relationship with God, and that we probably keep praying for the really hard stuff to be like, Lord, let's be done with this. But that we're able to accept that even if we're in the midst of it, like, okay, God, but I know that you are with me in the midst of this. And so I can keep persevering because I know that you are close by. So yeah. Wow. Selah, thanks for hanging out. This has been a lot of fun, kind of talking through some of our faith transition series, and hearing somebody who's like we've said, somebody who's right in the thick of it in this season of life that we are talking about and that we're wanting to prepare people for and walk through with people. Like, you're there. And so it's really meaningful, really helpful to get to hear some feedback like from you of real life experiences, things you're taking away from the series. And so I'm grateful for getting to hang out with you today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I was blessed by this conversation, really, truly.
I'm glad to hear it. Very glad to hear it. Alumni, if you are listening to this, if this is the first episode of this series that you're listening to, make sure that you go back and check out. We have episodes that are all about some of the sort of the tripping hazards in this, and some tools that you can take with you for adjusting. We talk about doubt, what it looks like to normalize and navigate doubt. We hear some stories about people who have had challenging transitions in their faith life and who are meeting Jesus in the midst of that. And we talk about hope and perseverance and joy. And we've got some really cool tools for you. So if you haven't listened, go back and check out those episodes. We'll link a few in the show notes of this one. And join us again next week for our next episode. In the meantime, share this with somebody who needs to hear it, and we'll see you in the after, alumni. Thanks for listening to After 4. This podcast is brought to you by the InterVarsity Alumni Relations Team, hosted and produced by John Steele, production assistance by Mike Zentera, edited by Caleb Leppert, and our After 4 theme music was written and performed by John Steele.